Hey everybody, welcome to yet another World of Warships replay, this time in the Tier 8 Japanese battleship, the Amagi. This is a pretty impressive ship, with 5 twin turrets of 16-inch guns. And we've ended up on this map again. As you can see, like I said in the Nagato video, usually the battleships tend to spawn in the south. Or if there's a lot of battleships, most of them will spawn in the south and some will spawn in the north. What this does is give you very early shots at the enemy battleships across the icebergs. I head pretty much straight north, just waiting for something to get spotted so I can take a shot at it. Now, the Amagi's guns are quite nice. The shell velocity is pretty quick as far as battleship guns go, so it makes it fairly easy to predict a lead, even at long range. And just in general, it's a pretty solid ship. It's not real maneuverable, in fact it's not at all maneuverable, and it's not terribly fast. I mean, it gets up to about 30 knots, which isn't bad, but I mean, it's a battleship. You're not playing it for its agility, you're playing it for those big guns, and it certainly does have those. So as you can see, Hatsuharu is actually heading into the cap zone there to put some pressure on the enemy. 2 more destroyers are heading for the central cap zone, and then it looks like our cruisers are going to cover the cap zone at sea. Now there's an enemy cruiser coming right on the edge of my gun range, so as soon as he gets respotted, I hope to get some shots into him. There he is, a Cleveland. Cleveland is absolutely ubiquitous at the moment. Everyone's playing them because they are, quite frankly, kind of overpowered. Their guns are fantastic and they fire very, very quickly. Try and predict the lead and take a quick shot, and here we have trouble. The enemy are sending torpedo bombers our way.
Our team has taken the lead.
And I'm kind of strayed out a little from the other battleships and the friendly Cleveland. Now, the Cleveland, as well as having good guns for dealing with ships, also has fantastic anti-aircraft defense. So if you stay near a friendly Cleveland, sorry, I'll use my words, you're going to be much better off as far as safety from air attack goes. The Japanese ships in general are lacking in anti-aircraft defense. Some are better, some are worse. The battleships aren't too bad. The destroyers have horrifically bad anti-aircraft. And so it's always good to keep some American cruisers around you, because the American cruisers have just anti-aircraft guns everywhere. Through comes the same Cleveland. He's turned back now and is heading to the southeast. Looks like the enemy destroyers are in the north of the map, or at least some of them, so I won't have to worry about them just yet. And I put a shot off towards the Cleveland. That looks good. Nope.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
Straddled. Battleship guns aren't as accurate as they once were, so at longer ranges you tend to straddle people rather than just hit them directly. But part of it as well is me trying to get a hang for the range again. We do get hit by one of the torps there, coming from out of the hell zone that is the southeast corner of this map. Probably one of the destroyers put them out. And finally we get some decent hits in. We've also got some battleships spotted now. And a Pensacola. I start to head out to the left a bit to put some more range between myself and those other battleships. Don't want everyone focusing me at once because that would not end well. And I begin looking for a couple more hits on the Cleveland. I get a couple. He's nearly dead. Pretty confident our Cleveland can deal with him, so I shift my attention to the Nagato. Now it's worth noting, for those of you who haven't actually played the game yet, that battleships get a special ability to actively repair some of their missing hit points. You can only do it a certain number of times. As you can see, I've already used it a couple times. I have 3 uses left. You activate it by pressing the Y key. Now the amount you get repaired seems to be based on how much damage you've taken recently and what from. Gun damage is repaired better than torpedo damage, and if you haven't taken much damage, you won't repair much. What this does is give battleships a very convenient way of kind of buffering damage in a whirling fight without making it too overpowered. It seems to be pretty well balanced, and I like it. I think it's an interesting mechanic. Only battleships get this ability, just like only cruisers, specifically the American cruisers in particular, get a special ability to intensify their anti-aircraft defense for a while. Battleships don't get that, so that's why you've got to stay by your cruisers. Now you can see I'm trying to take turns that will keep my guns pointed at the enemy without having to rotate my turrets. This is because battleship turrets take forever to rotate, as do Japanese destroyer turrets. And so you have to basically be pre-aimed. You have to plan your turns and plan your targets, because you really do not want to lose half or more of your firepower in a fight because you weren't turned the correct way. And as I come around the corner, I put a good hit right into that Nagato. For those who don't know how to aim for citadels, you generally want to aim beneath the smokestack for the engineering spaces, or beneath the gun turrets for the magazines. There are other places that are part of the citadel too, but generally those are the big ticket items. And I drive straight into two torpedo spreads. However, I managed to get another good hit into the Nagato, and you can see the effect of dive bombers there. Dive bombers are kind of hit and miss. I've seen them one-shot destroyers, I've seen them do huge amounts of damage to battleships. More often than not, all they'll do is set you on fire and do a little bit of damage. I'm not sure what decides it, if it's pure RNG or if it's... I honestly don't know what it is. But dive bombers honestly are more of an annoyance than anything else. The real threat from aircraft carriers is torpedo bombers, for obvious reasons. Now, as you can see, I've had to shift sides, and I'm still waiting for my rear guns to get back on the target. It's costing me a lot of hit points. I'm on fire. I've lost my rearmost turret, which has only just come back up. This is real life and death material here, and you can see our secondary guns along the sides of the ships trading shots. Unfortunately, just don't quite get the hits I need there. Although I do manage to set him on fire with my secondary battery, and finally he burns down. I only just got away with that. If he'd survived another few seconds, he would have reloaded his main guns, and that would have been curtains for me. Now, that Amagi out there is still a threat, but he doesn't appear to actually be looking at me. Same with the Fuso, they seem to be preoccupied at the moment. If I can, I'd like to take this Saipan out of the fight. Aircraft carriers are by far the biggest threat to battleships. Destroyers are dangerous if you let them get close, but destroyers are much more predictable. You can tell when they're dropping torpedoes, you can see them doing it, and so you can act accordingly. They're much easier to get away from, and again, with enemy battleships, you can tank their damage a lot better than you can tank torpedoes. And so carriers are really the solution to battleships, pretty much. Carriers are technically the solution to everything. Dive bombers are quite decent at taking destroyers out of the fight, but most carrier drivers know better than to waste torpedo bombers on a destroyer. They'll save them for battleships or other aircraft carriers. So you can see this guy took a really acute angle shot at me there, which was a mistake on his part because it's easy to turn out of. My anti-aircraft gunners are working overtime as I try and get some hits on him.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
The Saipan is about to leave my gun range, the Ranger is a much easier target, and I carelessly drift into a torpedo there. However, my AA gunners are making a good account for themselves with 23 aircraft shot down, 25 aircraft, correction, shot down already. You can see my own little scout plane buzzing around up there. And so, while the enemy battleships are preoccupied with our cruiser and battleship up in the north of the map, I work on the carriers. Now this guy's reversing, I don't know why. Don't reverse in a battleship, it's a terrible idea. You go very slowly and you're very predictable and it takes forever to get back up to speed. Unfortunately he changes back into forwards motion right after I fire, and so it kind of fucks up my shot. He's right on the edge of my range here, which lets me get some really nice plunging fire straight into him.